Don't walk down the aisle until you know these 7 signs. You know what's terrifying? It's not being single at 30. It's not wondering if you'll ever find someone. It's not even the fear of being alone. Here's what's actually terrifying. Waking up 5 years into a marriage, lying next to someone you vowed to love forever, and realizing you feel more alone now than you ever did when you were single. Because at least when you were single, the loneliness made sense. But this loneliness has a name, a face, a ring on your finger, and you can't even explain it to people, because on paper, everything looks fine. He's not abusive. She's not cheating. You're not fighting every day. But something's missing. Something you can't quite name. And it's eating you alive. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most people who are miserable in marriage aren't shocked. They're just finally admitting what they ignored before the wedding. Because the signs were there. They were always there. You just didn't know what you were looking at. You thought, maybe I'm being too picky. Maybe this is just what real relationships look like. Maybe I'm expecting too much. So you said yes. You posted the ring. You planned the wedding. You signed the papers. And now? Now you're stuck wondering, what if I had known what to look for? Well, that's exactly what we're about to talk about. Not fairy tale signs, not unrealistic expectations, but real, tangible, biblical, psychologically sound indicators that someone is actually ready to be your spouse. Not just your boyfriend, not just someone you love, your partner, for life. Welcome to Scriptora Faith Haven. I'm so glad you're here. And before we go any further, I need you to understand something. This isn't a video you watch for entertainment. This is a video you watch because you're serious about protecting your future. This is a video for the woman who's tired of ignoring red flags. This is a video for the man who's done settling for good enough. This is a video for anyone who knows that marriage is too sacred to enter blindly. So if that's you, if you want content that doesn't just make you feel good, but actually equips you to choose better, hit subscribe right now, because this community is growing, and I want you to be part of that growth. Now, let's dive in. Sign 1. You don't feel like you're constantly managing their emotions. Let me ask you something. When they have a bad day, are you allowed to have one too? Or do you find yourself swallowing your frustration, suppressing your needs, minimizing your pain, because you know they can't handle it? Because if you're honest about how you feel, they'll either shut down, get defensive, make it about them, or turn you into the villain. Here's what that is. That's called emotional caretaking. And it's exhausting, because in a healthy relationship, both people should be able to feel. Both people should be able to have bad days. Both people should be able to express disappointment without the other person crumbling or retaliating. Proverbs 25:28 says, "Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control." That word self-control, in the original Hebrew, doesn't just mean controlling your actions. It means controlling your reactions. It means being able to hear hard things and not fall apart. Being able to sit with discomfort without lashing out. If you're with someone who can't regulate their emotions, if you have to become smaller, quieter, less honest, just to keep them stable, That's not a partnership. That's parenthood. And you don't marry someone, you have to mother. You don't marry someone, you have to tiptoe around, because eventually, you'll resent them, and they'll wonder why. Sign 2. They don't just hear you. They actually listen. There's a difference. Hearing is passive. They're in the room. They nod. They say, uh-huh. But listening? Listening is active. It's when they put the phone down, turn off the TV, look you in the eyes, and they don't just wait for their turn to talk. They actually try to understand you. Here's how you know someone's really listening. They remember what you said, not just the big stuff, the small stuff, the offhand comment you made about feeling overlooked at work, the passing mention of missing your best friend, the subtle hint that you're struggling with something. They notice. They follow up. They ask, "Hey, did that situation ever get better?" Because real love pays attention. James 1:19 says, "Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." Quick to listen, not quick to fix, dismiss, interrupt, minimize. Just listen. And if the person you're with constantly talks over you, finishes your sentences, redirects the conversation back to themselves, or worse, if you've told them something hurts you and they keep doing it anyway, then they're not listening. They're just waiting for you to stop talking. And you can't build a life with someone who doesn't hear you. Real quick, if what I'm saying is hitting different, if you're realizing you've been accepting things you shouldn't, then I need you to subscribe, because this is just the beginning. And the people who stick with Scriptora Faith Haven, they're the ones who stop repeating the same patterns. They're the ones who finally start choosing peace over chemistry. Don't leave here without subscribing. Sign 3. You've seen them fail, and you still respect them. Here's what dating hides. How someone handles failure. Because when you're just dating, life is usually manageable. You're both on your best behavior. You're both trying to impress each other. But marriage reveals everything. And one of the biggest things it reveals is how someone responds when they don't get their way, when they fail, when they're rejected, when they lose. Do they take responsibility, or do they blame everyone else? Do they learn from it, or do they spiral into self-pity and bitterness? Do they trust God through it, or do they lose their faith the moment things get hard? Proverbs 24:16 says, "For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes." Notice, it doesn't say the righteous never fall. It says they rise again. That's resilience. That's emotional maturity. That's the kind of person you can actually build a life with. Because life will knock you down, both of you, and you need to know that when it does, they won't stay down. They won't take you down with them. They'll get back up, dust themselves off, learn the lesson, and keep going. If you haven't seen them lose yet, if you haven't seen them embarrassed, disappointed, or humbled, you haven't seen the real them. And you need to. Before you say, "I do," sign 4. They're not jealous of your growth. They celebrate it. This one sneaks up on people. At first, they seem supportive. They cheer you on. But then, you start getting promoted. You start losing weight. you start glowing, and suddenly, they're different. They make little comments. You're always so busy now. You think you're better than everyone. You're changing, and it feels like your growth is threatening them. Psychologists call this insecure attachment. It's when someone's love for you is conditional on you staying at their level. When you rise, they feel left behind. So instead of rising with you, they try to pull you back down. Philippians 2:3 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves." A secure partner celebrates your wins. But even when they're struggling, even when you're shining and they're in a season of waiting, they don't dim your light to feel better about their own darkness. If the person you're with feels threatened every time you succeed, that's not love. That's insecurity. And insecurity will sabotage your marriage every single time. Sign 5. They have a vision for their life, and you fit into it naturally. Let me say this carefully. You should never have to convince someone to build a future with you. If they love you, truly love you, you won't be an interruption to their plans. You'll be integrated into them. Here's what I mean. When they talk about the future, do they say I or we? When they make decisions, do they consider how it affects you, or do they just expect you to adjust? When they dream, are you in the picture, or are you just waiting to see if you'll be included? Because partnership means you're building together, not you reshaping your entire life to fit into theirs. Amos 3:3 asks, "Do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so?" Agreement, alignment, shared vision. That doesn't mean you have to want the exact same things, but it does mean you're moving in the same direction. If you want kids and they're not sure, if you want to serve in ministry and they think church is optional, if you value financial stewardship and they're drowning in debt with no plan, those aren't small differences. Those are fundamental misalignments. And love doesn't fix that. It just postpones the conflict. Listen, we're almost at the end, but before we get there, I need to tell you something. The reason this content exists is because too many good people are marrying the wrong ones. Not because they're bad, but because they didn't know what to look for. If you want to keep learning, if you want to protect yourself from heartbreak, subscribe. This is where we tell the truth. Sign 6. They've actually dealt with their past, or they're actively healing. Here's a hard truth. Unhealed people repeat patterns. If they haven't forgiven their ex, they'll punish you for what someone else did. If they haven't processed their childhood wounds, they'll expect you to fill a void only God can fill. If they haven't learned how to be alone, they'll cling to you in ways that feel suffocating. You can't love someone into wholeness. Only God can do that, and they have to be willing. Psalm 147:3 says, "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." But healing requires honesty, humility, help. If they refuse therapy, if they dismiss accountability, if they say, "I'm fine," when they're clearly not, that's avoidance. And avoidance doesn't go away in marriage. It just gets worse. So ask, have they done the work? Or are you hoping marriage will fix them? Because it won't. Sign 7. You have peace. Not perfect, but present. Let's end here, because this is the sign people ignore most. You can have every other sign, but if you don't have peace, don't do it. Colossians 3:15. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Rule like an umpire, making the final call. If there's no peace, God is saying no, or not yet. Listen, so here's my question. Do you see these signs, all 7, or are you making excuses? Because the cost of ignoring them is a lifetime of regret. If this resonated, subscribe. Stay connected. Your future depends on the choices you make now. I'll see you next time. Stay anchored. Stay wise. Stay free. Thank you for watching.